Good afternoon, everyone. As Shabbat approaches, welcome to our Kabbalat Shabbat service, which will be led today by David Harris. But first of all, we're going to start with a Devar Torah, and that will be given by Leigh Lewis. Here we are. Welcome, Leigh.
Good Shabbat, everybody. Let's start by saying, just mazel tov to Tottenham. Wonderful. Anyway, down to more mundane things. When it comes to studying Torah, then the easiest way of doing it is if we have a siddur, is you with the modern siddurim, whether it's Art Scroll or the Koran or even the green singers. They give explanations of why we do this and what we do and when we say it. And the same applies when we're studying Torah itself. We're in a Chumash, we have the commentaries and the explanations. So it's in this day and age, it's actually very easy. And it's even easier when you're at home because you can just, anything you want to know, you just Google it. And you'll get answers, whether it's from United Synagogue, Chief Rabbi's Office, Lubavitch, Chabad, Yakar, all these organizations. They're never short of giving opinions of what this means and why we do things. But they are really just explanations which scratch the surface of what we do and why we do it. The bigger question is when you actually do a deep dive into studying Torah. Because one of the problems is how do the rabbis come to the conclusions they do? And it all goes back to Gemara times with something that we actually read every day with Rabbi Yishmael, where he came up with 13 ways of looking at Torah, the juxtaposition of words, the juxtaposition of phrases and whatever, as to how we should understand verses and all that kind of thing. And that's really what the Rabbonim use today, and all people who write commentaries and whatever are doing nothing different. They're just using that same kind of formula. But there is another analytical thing that's out there on the internet, which I have to say you have to be careful of, because it isn't written generally. It's not written by Jewish people. It's written by people in the ministry, vicars, priests, whatever. They're learned men. They know Bible Hebrew inside out. Their knowledge of grammar and the texture and the construct of Hebrew is fantastic. But they analyze Torah in a totally different way. If we take the book of Leviticus, which is the book that we will finish reading tomorrow, they've found number patterns in it. The numbers are 7, 17, and 26. Patterns of how verses repeat or are structured with a number of words, or a theme runs through a number of ideas. It's quite interesting because 26 I can understand because it's grammatry of Hashem's name, but 7 and 17 are prime numbers, so it's maybe a bit surprising. By the way, they don't just pick on the Torah, they've also done it to the Quran, and in the Quran the repeating number, the pattern of things in the Quran is the number 19, also a prime number. But what has to be looked at is what they're doing and why they're doing it. At no point in time do they try to explain the Torah. They're looking for patterns in the way it is written. They did the same to Shakespeare as well. They're looking to see, was it written by one person? Was it written at the same time? Not why do we put up a mezuzah or why do we light candles Friday night? They're not interested in that. They're looking at the writing structure, the word patterns, because that's how they want to explain it. And the reason why they want to do it that way is because our tradition tells us that the Torah is written by a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and the prophets and the Kesuvim, the writings, were written by people under divine inspiration. Whereas the New Testament, what they call the New Testament, is written by ordinary people. It is written by ordinary people with no divine inspiration, and therefore they're looking to equate the Old Testament with the New Testament. And they're trying to say, well, because this looks as though it was written by the same person, therefore we can explain the Torah this way. They've come down to think that the whole of the Torah, 5 books of Moses, was originally one book and was separated into separate books later because of ease of use, ease of reading it, ease of whatever it is. It is not a way, and I'm saying this because I've looked at this, there's a lot of stuff out there if you deep dive looking for this kind of stuff. And the point is, they are not trying to explain why we put up a mezuzah or what is the significance of the Arcada with Abraham almost sacrificing his son. They're not interested in that. They're looking at word patterns, they're looking at number patterns, they're looking to try to equate the Torah with the New Testament. So while I encourage you all always to study Torah, to look, but always make sure what your sources are. When it comes from accepted sources, whether it's Yakar, Aish, or whatever, fine. They may be strange views to you, but they are authentic, proper views based on proper rabbinic ideology of how to understand and how to interpret Torah. Do not get sucked into these other ones because they can and are dangerous. Sorry about that, but I felt, having seen a lot over the last few weeks of what I've been investigating, and you see this number analysis, which has no emotion, no explanation, except mathematical formula and counting of all sorts of things. It is not valid, and it does a lot of damage to how we as Yidden understand the Torah. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
That was very interesting.
Very
Thank you
interesting,
for pointing that out to us all. Okay, thank you, Leigh, very much. Okay, David, are you ready to do Kabbalat Shabbat for us now?